So when people say, well, if your God is so loving, why would he send anybody to hell? Just realize he's not loving if he doesn't condemn sin. He has to judge that. If you had a judge in your hometown that let a murderous rapist go, would you consider him a good judge? Absolutely not. You would want a judge to obey the law, to execute the judgment required of whatever atrocious sin or act was conducted. That's what God does. He cannot be just, or he cannot be a good judge if he doesn't judge evil. All right, this week's Bible study was on the secret to overcoming anxiety. So how do you take care of being anxious? We started by talking about the top 3 things that make most people nervous. And for many of us, I think it's the daily life coming at us. Maybe we've got a big test coming up. For our Weld students down here, it may be those AWS certification tests. Or as a graduate gets closer and closer to that last day, what is that first Weld test really gonna be about? And those things do make us very, very nervous. We talked about the anxiety cycle, and essentially what happens is this: you've got an exterior component that makes you nervous, right? A stimulus that causes you to get inside of your head. Typically the flesh has you avoid that issue. So you do things to disconnect from real life coming at you. I don't know what that looks like for you. Sometimes they're bad habits. Maybe it's just wasting time. Regardless, the avoidance then gives you temporary relief, so you're happy momentarily, but as the big day or big event approaches, you become more and more and more nervous because it's time to show down. So don't get caught in the anxiety cycle. Instead, how can we fight that better? Well, Philippians 4:6 tells us, don't worry about anything, but in everything, through prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. I would invite you, instead of getting in your head and talking about all the bad stuff that could go wrong, and then trying to gain relief from that through temporary habits or entertainment, why not give it to God? Go directly to the man who controls everything and get that off your plate. What does that look like? It doesn't mean in the weld booth I have to hit my knees and fold my hands. Not at all. Matter of fact, my life feels more like I start my prayer when I wake up, and my amen happens when my head hits the pillow. So I'm constantly in my own head talking to God as I fight life. And it's great. It gives me peace and joy knowing that he's hearing all my thoughts and he's got all my complaints, all my nervousness, and he's taking care of that for me. So 1 Chronicles 16:11 says, seek the Lord in his strength, seek his face always. So how can leaning on God help you in those situations that are gonna make you nervous? Well, for example, on that first weld test that you're gonna be facing in the field, instead of getting in your head and getting worried about it, why not, ahead of the game, going to God, knowing that mentally that you need to physically be prepared, start getting that muscle mind memory down pat. Start putting in the work before the event, and that should also calm you down. If you're looking for nervous habits, how about leaning forward? That's a great one as far as accomplishing that. Thomas Jefferson said, I'm a great believer in luck. I find the harder I work, the more of it I have. So I think that, and the Bible talks about patience, but it's a different type of patience than what we typically think of. I think most of us would be like, I'm gonna go sit on my 7-gallon bucket and wait. That's the kind of patience God is calling me to. That's not the case. God's patience is more like, where you're at right now, keep doing work for the glory of God. Keep putting out, keep sweating it until my next move, until I call you to do something different. But it's not a patience on the couch. It's not a patience watching Netflix. It's a patience of being diligent for the glory of God while you're waiting on his next word. We also talked about naming those specific anxieties that get us down. Like when I'm talking to God, I don't just say, take these worries from me, take these worries from me. I give him specifics. Hey, I can't handle the rent right now, or I don't know where my next truck payment is coming from. What about this weld test I've got coming up, God? How am I gonna pass this 6010 root 7018 fill and cap in a 2-post simulator? Like verbalize those things. That too is gonna help. For one, you're getting to know God better. It's building a better relationship because you're speaking to him in real terms. But verbalizing that too will also help him as he helps take this off of you, give you some decision on what to do to accomplish those things. So be specific and name those anxieties as you take them to him in prayer. 1 Thessalonians 5:16 through 18 has become one of my favorite verses, at least in this time in my life. You'll find that maybe as you get to know me, depending on the season I'm going through or my age, I grab on to different verses. But 1 Thessalonians 5:16 through 18, rejoice always, pray continuously, and give thanks in all circumstances. That's powerful, because no matter where you're at, you should be enjoying the journey. Sure, life might be tough right now, but you know that going through this is what's going to give you the ultimate, your goals achieved, your beautiful family. And wildly enough, as Christians, we also need to understand that we'll never be completely satisfied, never completely goal crushed in this life, that our reward happens in the afterlife, of course. Matthew 16:24, Jesus tells us to pick up our cross and follow him. So we should be called to live a life of sacrifice. So always be rejoicing in the fight, in the grind. You should be proud to be sacrificing with Jesus, praying continually, taking your intercessions to the Father, and then always being thankful for what you have. And this to me seems like the easiest thing for an American to do right here, right now. I mean, if you're sitting here watching me on YouTube, if you're sitting in a comfortable couch, I guess, you're in air conditioning, there's all kinds of things that you've got going for you that I think we completely take for granted. I was fortunate to serve a year in Afghanistan in a third world country because, and I say fortunate because I also was, I stopped and I took it in. I observed what it would be like to live in those situations, those conditions. It's helped me to be more modest in what I desire, what I need to live out the daily, but also just to be so thankful to be an American, to be living here, and then to take those opportunities, what most people take for granted, and fully appreciate those, and again, be a service to others in that. Psalms 34:1-3, will bless the Lord at all times. His praise will always be on my lips. I will boast in the Lord, the humble will hear and be glad. Proclaim the Lord's greatness with me. Let us exalt his name together. Now this passage is emphasizing that we're going to praise God through it all. Like give him our stress, give him our worry, and have peace right here, right now. And that peace can be yours. Those are fruits of the Spirit, right? Love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. I think I got all of them. But definitely realize that I feel like I'm at an advantage being a Christian to the secular world, because I think there's a lot of nihilistic, what is the point in this world? That would cause me to be anxious and nervous, because if I don't get things done that I need to be done, then I'm in the dirt and I'm gone and it's all for nothing. Spirals into depression, maybe suicidal thoughts. I really don't understand how you could live with a secular worldview and be happy and find joy and live peace. But for me, I know that there's a God who loves me, who loves me so much that he humbled himself to step in the flesh of his son, Jesus Christ, and die for me. That's the kind of leader I want to follow. And then in doing so, I know that my salvation is secure. My eternity will be with him. How does that not give me peace and joy? How does that not give me a leg up on those unbelievers or those unsure about their eternity? So I know that no matter what the daily brings at me, it's really insignificant. If I can see that whole picture, and trust me, I can only see a very slim view of what God can actually see, but I am seeing things from a little higher point of view, in that the ups and downs are all for it. Check out Romans 8:18 and see if that's not exactly what I'm trying to summarize here for you. The Bible usually does it better than the words I can put in. I want to close with the gospel real quick for all you guys out there. We do it for our Sunday school class here, and that is that God created you and loved you. We sinned against him, and in order for God to be a just God, he has to execute judgment. He has to judge sin. So when people say, well, if your God is so loving, why would he send anybody to hell? Just realize he's not loving if he doesn't condemn sin. He has to judge that. If you had a judge in your hometown that let a murderous rapist go, would you consider him a good judge? Absolutely not. You would want a judge to obey the law, to execute the judgment required of whatever atrocious sin or act was conducted. That's what God does. He cannot be just, or he cannot be a good judge if he doesn't judge evil. So he will judge evil, and that sin separated us from that. But the good news is he loved you so much that Christ took your punishment for you. So that's substitutional atonement, that someone else took your judgment in place of you. Now that's hard for some of us to understand because as Americans, we're going to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. We get it on our own steam. That's not true. You may go to hell on your own steam because you are refusing to take any help. But the message is this: the grace and mercy and love of Jesus Christ is that he took your punishment for you. It'd be like going to the electric company and wanting to pay your bill, but your friend already did it for you. The company can't do anything. They can't give you another bill. The debt has been paid. You're good. Move on. But that choice is yours. God isn't forcing anybody to love him. You wouldn't want to be standing at the altar with a weapon forcing your soon-to-be spouse to marry you, right? You want that choice to be theirs because that is the truest expression of love, is choice and obedience and loving service to the other. That is what God is asking as well, for us to choose to love him. We're going to wrap up with James 1:22. It says, be doers of the word, not just hearers, lest you deceive yourself. I call it the homework verse. So how do we put what we've learned in today's lesson into our lives? I would like to bring in one more Thomas Jefferson quote. He says, how much pain they have cost us, the evils which have never happened. Think about that. How many times have you built something up in your own head, the possibilities, the what ifs, and they never even happen? Think of all that stress, all that anxiety, all that blood pressure that gets raised, and it was all for nothing. So instead, put your hope and trust in Jesus. Know that the God of the universe has your back. John 14:27, peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid. The words of Jesus Christ. So number 1, overthrow your worry. 2, replace worry with prayer. 3, verbalize your needs. And 4, give God thanks in all circumstances. And that wraps us up with today's Bible study on anxiety.